What's up, everybody? On today's show, what is next for the SEC? We will talk one-on-one with the commissioner of the conference, Greg Sankey. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what is up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We will bring you our conversation one-on-one with Commissioner of the Southeastern Conference, Greg Sankey. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to Everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, we got plenty to get to. We will bring you our conversation with Greg Sankey, but we got some tidbits to jump into. First off, we are going to go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch. Around the conference.
And we start over at Alabama. This news came out last week at SEC Media Days. We're so busy with interviews and everything else, we didn't even get to discuss it. But Alabama announcing that games will soon be played at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The dedication of the naming rights of the field to the legendary coach Nick Saban is set for September 7th when Alabama will host USF. That game already scheduled for a 6 p.m. Central kick on ESPN. So you'll have the national audience, and Nick Saban will get all the love and attention that he deserves. Saban saying in a release, "We're humbled that the University of Alabama has honored us with the naming of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The remarkable success our football program has achieved over the past 17 years is a reflection of the hard work of our many student athletes, coaches, and staff. Being a leader of the process at Alabama has been the greatest privilege of my life. Miss Terry and I are grateful for the naming of Saban Field." He didn't say Miss Terry, he just said Terry, but I mean, it feels weird to hear him say Terry without the miss in front. But Saban going 206-29 during his tenure at Alabama, a winning percentage of 87.7%. One of the most dominant coaches of our era of college football, and the Crimson Tide were dominant at home, going 108-9. I mean, our buddy Luke Robinson over at Locked On Bama, I guarantee he can name the 9 home losses. 3 of those 9 home losses came in his first season in 2007. Saban's first as Alabama head coach. Greg Byrne, Alabama athletic director, saying, "We are thrilled to honor Coach Saban with the naming of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, impacting countless lives far beyond football. What he and Miss Terry did and mean to the University of Alabama and the community of Tuscaloosa is immeasurable." We look forward to that day in September. So, look, fans are going to see him throughout the college football season on Saturday mornings on the crew of College Game Day. And Saban did make his ESPN debut during the NFL draft as an analyst there, but looking forward to that momentous occasion. Of course, Alabama's home slate includes Georgia on September 28th, South Carolina on October 12th, Mizzou, and Auburn. Some really, really good home games, but they owe South Florida a butt kicking too for playing that close dogfight of a game into the fourth quarter last year. So we'll see what Alabama can do. But looking forward to the naming rights of the field being dedicated to Saban Field. It's going to feel weird to say that. LSU, do they want to dedicate the field to them as well? We'll see. All right, we got other tidbits to get into. Let's stop off over at Florida, as former Florida football staffer Marcus Castro-Walker has filed a motion to dismiss that Jaden Rashada lawsuit that also involves Billy Napier and a prominent Florida booster. Of course, Rashada signed with Florida in December 2022, requested a release from his letter of intent, and after that, he signed with Arizona State. But there was an NIL collective that backed away from the $13 million that they were committed to him, and in May of this year, Rashada filed a lawsuit against Castro-Walker, Napier, and Hugh Hathcock, seeking damages in excess of $10 million. Well, Hal Lewis, a Tallahassee-based attorney, authored the motion filed on behalf of Castro-Walker, basically saying that plaintiff's complaint reads like a Harlan Coben novel, replete with facts that lead the reader down an obvious path, only to have the reader caught completely off guard by an unexpected plot twist. I don't know what any of that means. I just know that Castor Walker is countersuing. Edgar Thompson of the Orlando Sentinel, he's all over this, reporting Tuesday that Napier and Hathcock are expected to counter, follow with motions themselves, but looking for dismissal of this lawsuit. Edgar Thompson saying still awaiting motions from Billy Napier and Hugh Hathcock have yet to appear in the electronic court filings yet, but we'll see what happens there. But that story, certainly one we'll keep following throughout the time there. Over at LSU, some not so great news a couple days ago as defensive back Javien Toviano suspended from all team activities following an arrest for video voyeurism. According to NOLA.com, he turned himself into East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office. A woman told detectives she found videos of her in a sexual act with Toviano on his iPad. The woman told police she did not consent to the recordings, and details that Toviano had a clock with a built-in camera. We won't go further into details there, but you get the gist. Toviano was part of LSU's 2023 recruiting class, was a 4-star, number 5 safety, number 57 player overall in the 24/7 Sports Composite. Played a cornerback and nickel as a freshman, played in all 13 games, made starts in 3 of the last 5 games against Alabama, Florida, and Wisconsin. But, yeah, we'll see what happens with him. LSU already kind of thin there as far as experienced DBs, but look, real life sometimes takes precedent over football, and that is certainly one that is not a pretty topic. So we'll keep an eye on that story and how that develops. Other SEC or other college football nuggets, Florida State and Clemson are expected to remain in the ACC through at least the 2025-2026 academic year, and they have both filed separate lawsuits against their league to try to get out. And ACC having their ACC Media Days this week. Pete Thamel of ESPN reporting there is no expectation for teams to withdraw anytime soon, but is certainly on the table. Dennis Dobbs of CBS reported in June that Florida State had no plans to announce anything before their August 15th deadline. Florida State or Clemson would need to agree to a settlement with the ACC in order to facilitate a departure. And you believe some of those reports that came out last week that the SEC and Big Ten are not interested in Florida State if they were to become available. So you almost wonder if Clemson and Florida State would they go to the Big 12? Is that a better situation for them than the ACC? Be very interesting to watch that one. But Jim Phillips, the ACC commissioner, talking with the media at ACC Media Days, and some interesting comments from him, particularly when he said there's not a more exciting collection of teams in the country than in the ACC. I would disagree. Greg Sankey would disagree. All SEC fans would disagree. We'll talk with Greg Sankey coming up in the next segment. All right, recruiting-wise, Vernell Brown III, continuing the family legacy of playing football at Florida. A wide receiver prospect, verbally committed to the Gators on Sunday. His dad, grandfather, and uncle all played for the Gators. He announced his commitment on Sunday on YouTube. He's out of the Orlando area, 5'11", 170 pounds, rated a 5-star prospect, the number 5 player in the state of Florida, the number 6 wide receiver, and the number 25 overall prospect in the class of 2025 on 24/7 Sports. So big-time pickup there for Billy Napier. Question is, will he be the coach next year? Over at Georgia, they landed a commitment from a offensive lineman, Cortez Smith, out of the state of Georgia, 6'3", 310 pounds. Chose the Bulldogs over a Final Four that also included South Carolina. Took visits in recent weeks. Georgia got the final pitch to him at the end of June, and he had told 24/7 Sports he'd been a silent commit since that visit, by making things public just a couple days ago. His 4-star recruit, the number 6 interior lineman in this class, number 16 player from the state of Georgia, number 132 overall in the national rankings. And over at LSU, they picked up Derek Meadows out of Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman, wide receiver, 6'5", 200-pound blue chipper, committing to LSU. Ranks as the number 1 recruit from the state of Nevada, the number 10 wide receiver, number 68 overall prospect in the rankings. And then over at Tennessee, they got a commitment from a linebacker out of the state of Georgia, Christian Gass, 6'3", 215 pounds, gave his verbal to the Vols just a couple days ago. 4-star prospect, ranked as the number 22 linebacker in the class, the number 31 prospect from the state of Georgia, number 204 overall in the national rankings. And one more tidbit here, some good news from the Auburn camp. Running back Brian Battie walking with a cane, a significant milestone in his recovery after a shooting in May left him critically injured. His family writing an update on their GoFundMe page. We are overjoyed to share an inspiring moment in Brian's journey after facing the immense challenge of rehabbing after his type of brain injury. Without knowing if he would walk again, he took his first steps with a cane. Told us weeks ago he would be on his feet by his birthday, and he said he could, and he did. So a side note there, really good news there for a guy outside of the football world that, again, sometimes life intervenes and there's more important things. All right, coming up next, our conversation with the SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. We address a ton of different topics. You do not want to miss that. That's coming your way here in just a sec. Well, first, I want to remind you this episode is presented to you by the Game Time app. Look, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer we get to first pitch. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time is going to take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. And, of course, wherever you are listening to us, we got a lot of Astros and Rangers and Braves fans, particularly Braves fans, in our audience, and Game Time app will take care of you. Of course, with those all-in pricing, you could toggle that feature to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Of course, the seat views, you get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and you can take the guesswork out of buying tickets to any event, including Major League Baseball, with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Again, terms apply. Create an account, redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. It is last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed with the Game Time app. Always a pleasure when we get to SEC Media Days and we get to talk with the great Greg Sankey. And, of course, I ask you this every year. It's a tradition. I think we've done this 8 years, something like that, in a row. National championships in men's golf, women's basketball, college baseball, women's tennis, men's and women's outdoor track and field. I'm probably missing a few more in there, but
women's indoor track and field.
There you go. Do you ever get tired of winning?
No, it's a lot of fun to see. And I'm not in the middle of it, but to see people reach their peak, their pinnacle. The Arkansas women's relay team to put the exclamation point on their outdoor national championship was just a remarkable competition. And to baseball at the end of the year, where we had two SEC teams yet again in the championship final. It's fun to walk up to that, and then when you're there, you're just kind of at a conference game, kind of neutral as can be.
I loved your comments the other day about the SEC saying we're the only conference where the name still means something. I think it's true on so many levels, but it really is. If you're going to call yourself a conference, let's be a group where we're nearby. We don't have to fly halfway across the country to go play a game. What do you make of the state of where we are right now in conferences?
Well, we're in Dallas, Texas, and I was on the radio yesterday with a station from Columbia, South Carolina, here on the other edge, explaining that there's about 100 miles distance that's been added to their longest trip, which was the longest trip in the league, College Station to Columbia, South Carolina, which is about 5 minutes on an airplane, so it's not onerous at all. And as our presidents and chancellors talked about the present and the future, we had people reach out the last few years, and they were clear to say, we know who we are, fans know who we are, we have something very special here, very connected. Let's make sure we represent and respect that reality. And so that made decision-making easy. And in fact, I think what's happened from over the last 3 years since our announced expansion has really informed and justified why we made the decisions we've made to bring in Oklahoma and Texas, because change was going to happen.
It's very interesting. We were here a couple years ago when the news broke, and I know you were making the rounds of Radio Row, and that leaked out, huh? Texas and Oklahoma coming to the conference. Here we are. It's a reality. They're in. Where are you right now with them in there? How does this feel?
We had that moment at Media Days on Wednesday, so we're here on Wednesday 3 years ago when the news broke. It was just a little over a week later where the actual invitation was issued. There was a process that had to take place. There were no guarantees ever provided. Oklahoma and Texas both knew they had to make their decisions as it related to their status in the Big 12, and then that would allow them to pursue the opportunity with us beginning in 2025, and we've now moved that up a year. So we started with their athletics directors joining our ADs in late August by video conference. They've been meeting in person with us since January 22. Presidents and chancellors over a year being in all of our meetings. We added all of their coaches over the last year to our meetings, even though they weren't playing, to develop the familiarity, to go through an orientation process, to talk about our issues, to hear their perspectives. And I think it's been a very healthy transition, leading to really a special experience in Austin on June 30 and Norman on July 1, when both universities had these huge celebration events. We wanted to be respectful and orderly in the transition. I think we've done that. And now we're here. We've got 16 teams represented at Media Days. We're in Dallas at Media Days, and we're just a few weeks from seeing competition on the field, first in soccer, then volleyball, then football season.
The problem becomes you make additions, and now the topic just keeps going, what about more? I mean, do you get tired of the constant, well, we're going to add more teams constantly?
I did on Monday when it was like the third straight question. And, you know, when you answer it the first time, you know it's coming. When you answer it the second time with the same answer and somebody asks you the third time, then you're like, well, come on here.
Yeah,
I'm not the one who's focused on this. Clearly, others are. But I understand the interest level, particularly because there's a bit of turmoil in one of our colleague conferences. Some things have to be sorted out, it appears, legally there. So that puts the idea, the thinking in people's minds. Look, I don't want to create any turmoil or pressure for anyone else at this point. We'll watch and see what happens. We don't want to be entangled. We have an expectation entangled in somebody else's legal issues. We have an expectation from our presidents to me that we not be involved in litigation around expansion, which we've not been involved in that. So I have to pay attention, but I think 16 is a great number. 16 is our today and our tomorrow is what I said. And our move to 16 3 years ago has allowed us to be in control of our own decision-making. As we've watched others pursue different opportunities, we've been able to watch.
And your 16 may be stronger than somebody else's 30 if another conference gets there. I'm just going to hit on a number of different topics. We're talking to Greg Sankey, SEC Commissioner. Are you pleased where we are currently with name, image, and likeness?
No.
Okay.
I think that the onset, we've said now for 5 years, a state-by-state patchwork of laws, the young people, even those who benefit from name, image, and likeness activity, are displeased with that approach. At least that's what they communicate directly to me. And there's a better way to do this. Our student athletes deserve better than a state patchwork of laws. They deserve better than state laws that really are not enforced or provided any oversight. They deserve better than state laws that are changed for competitive purposes. We need leadership on this issue, and that can play out at the state level, but it can also play out at the congressional level, and that's a place where national standards can be established.
It's so, I mean, we were reading all these, everything with the lawsuits and the settlement and all this, and it's, for average college football fans, your head's spinning, reading all this legal jargon. Where are we with that? You know, what's the next step, I guess, in terms of this agreement and this settlement and all this kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think your description is right, that fans want to go see some games.
Right.
But we have to deal with what's around the games. It's not a world where we can just go play games and everything's fine. We've done such a good job that we're an attractive target collectively. In late May, it was announced that the plaintiffs and the defendants in a set of lawsuits, generally called House versus the NCAA, agreed to a short form document outlining terms of a legal settlement. That includes back damages payments, that includes forward-looking model. And we're in the process of walking through a long form of that. So it's a much more specific set of terms. We're attentive to that every day. We've got some deadlines that are in front of us, so a lot of work there, and we need to get through that so that then we can begin the implementation phase. And it will test people's patience. It will create stress because we're going through change, and in times of change, it is uncomfortable. But we're still going to play football games on Saturday.
Well, that's all we're worried about, the average fan. What concerns you most in the immediate future of just college athletics?
I unfortunately don't have the luxury of thinking of the one thing or the most or what's the biggest issue. There's just a range of issues. But to respect the question, I'll go back to moving through this full set of settlement terms, understanding that, and then going through an implementation phase. So we've set up some working groups that are poised to begin their activity once we have a more clearly defined set of terms. Everybody's chomping at the bit to get to work on what the new model will be. And we're going to be fully engaged in that activity so that as the settlement proceeds through the court case, and we don't control the decisions of the court, there's plenty of questions about whether it will be sanctioned by the court or not. People are going to have plenty of opinions, but we're going to work towards that goal. So that's at the top. At the same time, we have to continue in communication with Congress, see what happens in the elections this year, what solutions, what opportunities may that open up, what directions may that provide, what doors might be closed. We need to work on our own conference policies. So not just look from a governmental level, but what policies should we adopt, and can we advance those into conversations with our elected leaders? And they are elected leaders, and we're looking for their participation in the leadership of this change. I think the integration of the team, so you asked for the biggest, and I've given you 3, but I think the integration of the teams we're prepared for. So we're used to sponsoring games, and we're looking forward to that part. But that'll be different, and we'll learn a little bit from the expanded playoff, from a 16-team single-division conference, and we'll take that learning and go forward.
Okay, a couple fun ones. How weird is it to see Nick Saban walking around here as a media member?
The strangest part was Monday when I was asked a question about him in the big room in my press conference, and he's sitting back on the elevated stage under the lights staring at me, preparing to answer the question.
Yeah, he's never been in that crowd before watching you.
No, not on that side. He's never hung around this long either.
Yeah, it's true. It was weird, too. I mean, seeing Kalen DeVore come in, and I think he's going to do a tremendous job, but without the whole fanfare of as if the president just walked in, you know?
Yeah, he'll get there.
Look, CBS was a great TV partner for years, but the partnership with Disney and ESPN and ABC and being able to showcase the best matchup week in and week out at nights where, I know the documentary's coming out Saturday nights under the lights. It's tremendous.
It is, and it's already allowed us to put our kickoff times out for the whole season. There's some movement in afternoon, evening games, but pretty remarkable objective for us to have achieved, and to do that in partnership with ABC and ESPN's outstanding. So that's one. The second is, under our pre-existing agreements, the only way for us to access a lot more broadcast TV opportunities was with ABC. And not only the big game being in primetime, we could have 2 or 3 games on ABC on a given Saturday, which is about 135 million households having access. And you've seen with some of the women's basketball games, when that pops on broadcast TV, the viewership shoots up from cable, and that's just the reality we're in. So that was a second part of the second advantage of this change. And then they have infrastructure to see what happens with the digital world. We're not migrating everything there. We've got one football game, but you want the breadth of the support they can provide.
And last thing for you, when you're not doing all this work, take me inside. You're still doing, I know you're doing CrossFit a while back. What are you doing in your downtime?
I'm run, so you can pop a pair of shoes. I've not run this week. I had a big 15K race where I was a little sore, so trying to recover because the amount of energy that talking all day takes is pretty remarkable. And I read a lot of books. I'm on book 20 since what I consider summer. So when softball ends to Labor Day is my summer reading period, and try to get through about 20 to 25 books. So I'm on a good pace right now.
Marty Smith's sitting right over here. I'm in the middle of reading his book right now. So
yeah, I got a mention in there. I was part of that. So it was well done. I was really impressed by what he put together and who he brought in.
Yeah, absolutely. He is SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey. Always appreciate the time, sir. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, more right after this. All right, our thanks again to Greg Sankey. Thank you guys so much for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Remember to check us out each and every day. And hey, for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, streaming for you 24/7 on our YouTube channel. Also, check out some of our other great podcasts. Matt Moscona doing a fantastic job with Locked On LSU. He just took that podcast back over, already crushing it. Great coverage. If you're an LSU fan, you will get all you need from him. And check that out. Thank you guys again for checking us out here on Locked On SEC. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Come on back and see us as we get you up to date. More of our conversations from SEC Media Days and much, much more right here on Locked On SEC.